に震えろモナーク。やった。
He was your typical filthy, uneducated virgin, until one day he walked into something he shouldn't have, with him getting rocked, but unsure how he spends his next days hoping to unveil the truth of the supermarket. Once he arrives, however, he finds familiar faces, making him wonder if there is something else going on within the walls of the store. Episode 1. On April 6th, 2011, our protagonist, Sato, almost died in the middle of the grocery store, but was brought back to life by the slim leggings before his eyes. He remembers his life, never having done anything out of the ordinary and being some random background character. With him only having a criminal record for skipping train lines, he's still just some kid with no felonies. Then he finally gets up from the floor he's been making out with, only to see a white-haired girl watching him outside. As he watches her, his stomach rumbles, leading him to look at his wallet to see if he can afford food. To his surprise, not only is he mega broke, but everything in the store is sold out. Eventually, he finds some glizzies on sale, so he decides to steal them. Once he gets outside, he wonders what the white-haired girl was saying to him earlier, wishing it was something lewd. While thinking about lewd things, he passes out, causing an ambulance to come pick him up, showing just how much of a virgin this guy really is. The next morning, after getting dispatched from the hospital, he wonders if his virgin life will ever change. Then as he walks, a girl calls out to him and reveals she has been stalking him since he entered the store. As the two walk, Sato tries to spit some game on her, but he stops after realizing the girl is a nerd. He then tries to remember what happened, but can only recall trying to get a bento. The girl realizes that he has completely forgotten about her, so she starts crying, forcing Sato to wonder what he did to her. She then runs away, telling him that he doesn't need to know what happened yesterday. But Sato knows even if he was drunk, he wouldn't tap that. As he arrives at school, Sato sees the same white-haired girl from the supermarket from yesterday. She stares into his soul and forces Sato to remember her from the previous day. While he stalks her, the other girl gets kidnapped, leaving him alone. Following this, the white-haired girl emerges and tells him that he ought to help a girl in need. He stares at her chest as they walk and asks why there is so much trash. He asks her if she is a slob or something, which causes her to try and defend herself, telling him it just built up. She then tells him that this is all just plastic trash, the rest being back at her place. She informs him she is the only one who throws the trash out anyways, club members being lazy. He then asks about her club, but she stops him and tells him to stay away from the supermarket. Later that day at school, girls laugh at Sato for his ugly appearance. He has other plans. He looks around the classroom through some food until he finds a girl named Shirome before him. He remembers her as the self-proclaimed student representative who is a pain to everyone. He expects nothing but bad information from her, so he tells her to go away. She slaps him and tells him to keep his distance from Hana, the nerdy girl from earlier. Before we continue, let's take a moment to answer the question of the day. Do you talk to the nerd girl or tell her you're too cool for her? Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out in the next video. Now, back to the recap. After finally learning her name, he asks her why she has a problem with him doing stuff with her. She then slaps him again and tells him to keep her name out of his mouth. Once the day ends, Sato heads back to his free student housing for the poor students, but realizes he has no food. He decides to head to a supermarket to get food despite the girl's warning, where he finds Hana awaiting him. She tells him that he has a destiny to fulfill, pointing down a certain aisle. As they walk down closer to the market side, they see various people staring at them, eventually causing the white-haired girl to approach. He tells him to be careful, and Sato notices the clerk putting a half-price sticker on the bento box. He goes to approach it, however. He gets beaten to a pulp before even seeing the attack. He hears someone calling her the ice-cold witch, making Sato wonder what happened. He tries to remember, and suddenly he remembers what happened the previous day. Firstly, he accidentally bumped hands with the nerd girl, then ran to the bentos joyfully like today. Before he could get any of them, however, the ice-cold witch knocked him out. This time, instead of leaving them in the center of the store, the clerk brings him to the back. After waking up, Sato asks what's going on and why he has benches prepared. The clerk tells Sato that this isn't just any ordinary supermarket. With him putting half-price stickers on bentos every day, it's become a place where people fight for the bento. After explaining all of this, Sato laughs, thinking he is being played. The clerk is serious. He tells Sato to be more careful next time, informing him this store is the ice-cold witch's hunting grounds. He tells Sato to take a granola bar on the way out for free as reward for his efforts. He takes it home, and when he cooks it up, causes a fire in the dorm. The next day at school, people are talking about it, making him realize how much he messed up. Ram then approaches him, starts slapping him for no reason, telling him he is a scumbag. As she walks away, Sato stares at her leggings, wondering if she is the ice-cold witch. Later that night, Sato finds himself at the supermarket once again, this time ready to fight. He waits in an aisle acting like a normal shopper until he starts to see his opponents for the day. Before they get to the bentos, Sato notices a strong presence nearby. When he turns, it is gone. He thinks the coast is clear, so he talks with Hana about which bento he will try and grab. And suddenly, the clerk emerges to place down the half-price stickers. Everyone watches closely. Don't make a single move, allowing the clerk to finish putting them down. As he walks away, the tension rises, causing complete chaos. As he closes the doors to the back, a sudden surge, people fly towards the bentos, each proving how much they want it. Sato notices that these people are putting their all into it, giving him the courage to fight himself. He sees the bento before him and knows if he doesn't act now, he will never get one. Like a hero, he jumps into the fighting, but gets whopped instantly, showing he isn't yet ready to fight. Right before he gets finished, the ice-cold witch emerges, revealing it's the white-haired girl. She then proceeds to make quick work of all the fighters, whether it's a big dude or a random group of guys. Sato joins in as well and tries to get a bento amidst the chaos. He gets finished like before. He tells him that if he wants to survive in this battle, he needs to knock on room 501 at 7:30 tomorrow morning. This gives him and Hana hope, thinking maybe one day they can claim a bento for themselves. Episode 2. The next morning when he goes to meet her, she introduces herself as the ice-cold witch, Yarazui. She urges him to sit his weak self to sit down so that she can beat some sense into him. With his legs shaking from excitement, Sato sits down to learn more about what the fighting is about. She tells him, however, she forces him to sign the contract to join the club, and eventually Sato falls into temptation. He then welcomes them into the Half-Pricers Club, a club that chases after the best bento lunch deals. With a little more knowledge of how the fighting works, he proceeded with more caution this time. See, Yarazui runs the supermarkets within 3 kilometers of the school, but she will be elsewhere for a while. This information they are left to fend for themselves. The fights having specific rules, they wait until the clerk puts the stickers on and the door closes. Then, as you know, the battle begins this time, however. Sato puts in a better effort than most, with the rules also stating that one only gets what they came for, nothing else. There is always a chance to get the half-priced bento. At the end of it all, Sato gets beaten to a pulp and decides to head to the next supermarket to try his luck. Once he arrives, he sees the monk who welcomes them. He tells them the grandfather will soon be putting up the discount stickers in the area. Then suddenly the boar emerges and causes fear in the other men. The girl, Hair Dye, attempts to stop her, but Boar is simply too strong. With her being the typical American obese lady, nobody stands a chance against her overwhelming strength. Then goes over to the bentos and grabs every single one of them, showing how fat she really is. She urges the poor old man to hurry up, revealing that not everybody abides by the rules. With the grandfather being stripped of his pride, everyone leaves and gets the side option. Sato realizes that the boar must have come the other day, thus emptying the shelves. They settle with some rice balls and deep-fried udon instead of the half-priced bento. Although it isn't as good as the bento, it definitely works for 2 people that just finished fighting. As they finish eating, someone is seen nearby, watching over them. The next day at school, Sato is approached by the class rep once again, claiming that Hana is hers. She tells Sato to stop putting her in danger, telling Sato that she belongs to him. Sato then lets his temptation take over, drawing his eyes to her chest, which causes her to slap him. He falls to the ground and thanks her for the onslaught of attacks, secretly liking it. Following this, he heads to the club room, but remembers that Hana was kidnapped and is now unable to join them. After finishing his explanation, Sato grabs Yarazuha's arm and tells her that he has something to tell her. But before he expresses his feelings, she gets up and leaves him all alone, telling him it's time. After this, he follows suit and heads to the supermarket to hopefully claim a bento. Today, however, the rugby club enters, causing the other participants to leave, knowing they don't stand a chance. The boar then appears as well, making them realize they really have no chance. But right before they can exit, the wizard emerges and flexes on Sato with his glamorous appearance. Once the others see this, they know there is no chance to get anything, but Sato stays. He observes the grandpa go to the bentos, which causes movement within the store. The wizard approaches Sato and asks him if he is alright with some udon rather than a bento. He asks Sato if he wants to be a wolf or not, trying to convince him not to back down so easily. He takes the wizard's advice and runs in, hoping to stop the boar for good. He slows her down, but she continues her advancement, making Sato change positions, knocks him back relentlessly afterwards, and causes the wizard to take initiative. He tricks her into banging into the wall, leaving an opening for them to claim bentos. Before they can, however, the rugby team emerges, claiming every bento for themselves. The wizard doesn't let this happen easily, however, jumping into the sky and taking down opponents left and right. Witnessing this, Sato tries his best to continue the strike, but gets pinned. As soon as he thinks it's over for him, the other hunters come in and clear the path. The rugby team launches their final attack on the group, causing the real bosses to butcher them. After learning how to hold his pride from the wizard, Sato fights with Goatee, a veteran fighter. He gets the upper hand and causes the others to emerge as well. Despite losing his bag, he achieved his first bento of the day today. He then receives a text from Hana asking why he has been ghosting her. He sighs and wishes he could just flirt with all of them. As he goes to send her a reply, the class rep calls and forces him to rethink talking to Hana. He finally gets into his club room, but awaiting him is Yarazui, who congratulates him. She tells him that although he has gotten one victory, her bento box is an ultra-exclusive. Tells him that the clerk of this bento sticker claims to have the best bentos, making the demand for it the highest. He asks him how he managed to get a bento, and he explains the wizard helped him. She tells him that the wizard is a senior at their school named Yu. He then opens up a book filled with various high-end, half-priced bento tags. She urges him to put his in the emblem as a memory for his first claim. As he inspects the book, however, he finds Yu, the wizard's name written on it right above his own. Episode 3. Later that week at school, students talk about a streaker who built their own homeless shelter on school grounds. One of the students speaks up and tells the other that the homeless person stole his jacket as well. They tell him he has to get it back, so this student charges down the hall to find it. This student is revealed to be Sato, who has had all of his clothes stolen from him by the class rep. She tells him to hand over his phone so she can see his texts with Hana, but he denies having it. Following this, a fat nerd guy emerges and tells Sato that he needs to accept his fate already. He grabs his hand and walks away, waiting for her to strip him clean. Later that day, Sato came to the club room after getting violated. He asks Yarazui to help him beat her up. She instead offers to treat his clothes. She strips him down and starts sewing the threads back together, putting Sato at ease. While she does this, Hana takes multiple pictures of the stripped-down Sato to save for later. And suddenly the class rep bangs on the door and proceeds to let herself in. She apologizes to Yarazui for involving herself in the supermarket ramble a few days ago. She accepts her apology and tells her to get out of the room already. The class rep then informs Sato that she has become a student council member, so she holds power within the school. She then tells Sato that they are picking up all the trash around the campus, referring to his clothes. Before they throw his clothes into the burner, however, he dives forward, hoping to save his clothes. While this happens, another student meets with his grunts to inform them the ice-cold witch has taken on apprentices. Then another man emerges and tells him that the ice-cold witch isn't someone he can easily handle. The man, however, insists that he can take her down, revealing he is a member of the kendo club. Then later that night, Sato heads to the supermarket alongside Hana. He asks him to join, and he tells her that she is a member of the half-priced club, so of course she can. Once they arrive, however, a man is seen waiting for them, hoping to warn him of the challenges. He introduces himself as Yamahara and the leader of the kendo club. He explains that he belongs to one of their teachers' pack, telling him they are strong. He then asks them to try and work with them in order to successfully get a bento. They agree, so Yamahara hands him a KKK uniform to put on. Sato realizes this is the catch, puts it on anyway so that he can successfully secure a bento. After waiting for the grandpa to put the stickers down, people start charging in. Following them is Yamahara, who leads his KKK pack to the bentos. Utilizing their formations, they are able to secure as many bentos as they could possibly need. With every one of them getting their own bento, Sato wonders if this is how wolves should hunt for their food. He tastes the bento and realizes that it doesn't taste the same as the bento he worked for. Mahara then approaches him and asks if he will join their pack to assist them in their bento collections. Sato, however, tells them he needs to think about it, knowing their method is a bit schemy. Later that night, Sato meets up with Yarazui and explains what they did today. He explains how they abused the rules to get bentos much easier than anyone else. Yarazui then shares with Sato an old memento from their club, telling him to always work for his bentos. Following this, Yarazui eats her half-priced bento pridefully, having fought for it herself. She then shares some of the bento with the others, knowing they are starving for some hard-earned food. Even Sato swallows his pride and eats off her chopsticks, hoping it will be worth it in the end. Despite the good flavor, however, he still feels like something is wrong about the way their hunting pack works. He expresses this to Hana, asking her how she feels about working in the hunting pack. She tells him that although it was easy to get the bento, she felt like it was much too easy. This makes Sato think about the time he spent with the KKK members, realizing it's not about the bento, but rather the right to buy one. The next day, before heading to the supermarket, he wonders what to do. Despite inviting Hana to go with him, he tells him that he is on his own today. While this happens, Yarazui flexes her different half-priced bento stickers, some her having to traverse mountains for. Sato then starts talking and explains a particular game to them. He explains that you start off weak, but gradually get stronger by fighting stronger opponents. He realizes this is exactly what the half-priced club is about, so he heads out, knowing what he needs to do. Upon arriving at the supermarket, he finds the KKK club members there as well, expecting an answer from Sato. He informs them that he will give an answer after the brawl takes place, hoping to express himself through action. Then, as the grandpa leaves, the battle begins with the KKK members taking control of the bentos. With another easy bento, Sato takes another approach to the fight, pushing the KKK members back. Amahara sees this and rushes him. Sato dodges, telling him he doesn't want to join his stupid pack. While this happens, the kendo club leader and teacher enters the store looking for a fight. Sato, on the other hand, fights on equal terms with Yamahara, showing he won't have an easy time getting a bento. Then, right after he takes him down, the kendo club teacher emerges. He strikes at Sato, but his attack is stopped after seeing Sato with a bento in hand. After seeing this, the teacher stops Yamahara from advancing, telling him he isn't just any dog, but rather a wolf. Sato, on the contrary, gets back to the club room with his work for bento and presents it to Yarizui. This impresses her, so she throws him a pair of keys after seeing his resolve. Episode 4. In another supermarket not far, a blonde beauty takes care of the half-priced fighters with ease. She is the Lady of the Lake, and one morning when Sato wakes up, he finds this same girl sitting in his bed waiting for him. With his dirty mags all exposed, he wonders what happened last night while he was asleep. The girl then tells him that although his taste in girls has changed, he is still the same old creep. She introduces herself as his cousin Ayam and proceeds to jump on top of him. She asks him why he has been holding back all this time even if they are slightly related. Sato, however, isn't into that kind of stuff, so he shakes her off and demands a reason for her being here. Tries to play with him, but he persists, forcing her to explain why she's here to Sato. As she does, she sorts through games hoping to reconnect with Sato like they used to years ago. After a bit of playing, he starts to feel his eyes take over, that is, until she notices this. She gets in close and tells him a secret, then asks him to challenge her to a game. She tells him if she wins, she gets a request from him, but if he wins, he can squeeze them. Sato finally folds under the pressure, so he accepts, but he gets destroyed in the game. The following day, he goes to meet up with Hana, where he talks about their future. She then presents him with a new uniform befitting his club's motto, puts it in his bag, and heads to the club room where he finds Ayame waiting for him. He welcomes him back, and Yarizui explains to him that they are already acquainted. Following this, Ayame begins to use a forbidden technique on Hana, forcing Sato to fall to the ground and watch. Eventually, Hana gets a call and forcibly lets her out of Ayame's grasp. Once things settle down, Sato asks her why she became a wolf in the first place. She ignores him, however, reads some article on Sato, explaining that he is some worthless student that gets no girls. After hearing this, he slams the computer shut, but is interrupted when the class rep enters the room. She demands an explanation from Sato, but when Ayame moves in, she figures out the culprit. She walks towards Ayame and asks her where she got the uniform from, recognizing she isn't a student. After revealing it was Sato that provided it, she smacks him a few times. Once she finishes him, she moves on to Ayame and starts roasting her. She tells her that she has a much worse fate, forcing her to drag Ayame out the room. While this happens, some shady bastard looks at his televisions talking about Ayame and how strong she is. Sato, on the other hand, walks home until he receives a call from Ayame. She asks him for help, so he responds. Once he arrives, he is stunned to see her in a fancy dress. He likes what he sees, so he starts smelling her, but she backs off. He asks what happened, so she explains that when the class rep kidnapped her, she started acting weirdly. First stripping her, then throwing her into a bathhouse, she corners her. Before she could make any advancements, however, she ran out, was forced to put the dress on as a last resort. They then get hungry, so they go to the closest supermarket where Yarizui awaits them. She welcomes them and asks Sato what his target for today is. He picks a special item that has high demand, making the girls warn him for what is to come. Ayame tells him that she is picking the same as Yarizui, meaning there is an intense battle soon to happen. Yarizui tells Sato to keep his cool, there being tons of people waiting around for the bentos. The clerk then puts the stickers on and starts his march back to the closet, starting the fighting. Ayame takes the initiative and gets to work, taking down as many wolves as she can. Amidst this, however, Yarizui is seen doing the same till the two cross paths, forcing a battle. Though she tries her best, Ayame gets knocked down as quick as the others, showing she doesn't have the edge on the Ice Queen. Sato sees this, so he goes to comfort her, but she tells him not to worry about her and rather get his own bento. She then runs into battle and starts by striking Yarizui. She realizes why she is called the Queen. While this fight goes on, Yarizui questions Ayame's methods, asking her why she is only targeting her, not the bento. This enrages her, so she strikes. Yarizui is too fast, making quick work of Ayame. During this, Sato fights for his own bento, but is caught up in the mass of people. Just as he gets close to grabbing one, someone appears in Sato's tracks, stopping his advancement. With his stomach grumbling, however, he pushes forward with the thought of eating a hard-earned bento. Then, as he fights the man, the two cover each other's backs, earning the other's respect. They then both get a hand on the bento, and in a struggle, Sato eventually overpowers him, earning the bento. Following this fight, Yarizui tells Sato the man is an unknown wolf from another territory. Ayame, on the other hand, is still satisfied with her fight, despite not earning a bento. She offers Sato to eat with her, but he chooses to eat with Yarizui over her. Once she sees this, however, Yarizui asks him to go and comfort her, knowing that she is hurting from not getting a bento. While this happens, the man who fought Sato talks with another man on the phone about their evil plans. Following this, Sato finds finds Ayami and offers to eat with her out of pity. She can't accept this, however, so she proposes rock, paper, scissors to decide who needs to apologize. Sato purposely loses and apologizes multiple times to Ayami, giving her a chance to steal some of his bento. She then reminds him that she offered him a hug before the fight if he earns a bento. He awkwardly stands there as she hugs him, showing he still has little experience with girls. Episode 5. At Ayami's high school, she waits for Sato to arrive so that he can help her secure a bento. Sato, on the other hand, finds himself tied up by some middle-aged man who tells him he will never let weirdos get near Ayami, presents a battery, and tells him he is going to shove it where the sun doesn't shine. While Sato is being chased by the guards, the man who fought him, Nikaido, talks over the phone with his boss watching Sato run by. After getting dashed past, he finds a flyer informing him where he is headed. His boss tells him to follow them and get there as soon as he can. Ayami, on the contrary, is seen still sitting around waiting for Sato to arrive, not knowing his current situation. As they talk, he hangs up on the phone, making her wonder what he's doing. She looks out the window and sees him running by with tons of guards on his tail. She then guides him into their room and calls him a pervert for wearing a girl's outfit. The other girl emerges and puts a hat on him, hiding his haircut, supposedly his appearance. The girl then introduces herself as Inoue, close friend to Ayami. He goes to shake her hand, solidifying their friendship. Ayami stops her and asks for a drink. She happily runs out, which allows Ayami to explain to him not to involve himself with Inoue. She explains that she has super bad luck, so if you associate yourself with her, you're sure to as well. After she finishes explaining this, they head outside the room to go to a supermarket. Ayame, however, tells him that she can't go to the same one as him without an explanation. Sato questions her further, but she persists, causing the two to head down together. While they talk, they eventually run across Inoue showering herself in cola. They avoid her but run into the guards, who demand he gets away from Ayame. She steps forward and stops them from proceeding, thus allowing Sato to advance to the supermarket. Still being dressed in his skirt, everyone stares at him like he's a creep. Sato realizes this and tries to explain himself, but there is no explaining this. Even Nikaido is disappointed in him, having considered Sato a rival at his own strength. Sato continues to try and explain himself, but everyone looks at him differently. Tries to talk with Nikaido, but he rejects him, telling him he doesn't stand a chance against him. Yarazui then join in, telling him that he is out of place here in this strange outfit. Following this, Ayame emerges and asks them what they are doing there. Yarazui explains that there was an event where specific and fresh new types of bentos were being offered. Because of this, she decided to check it out and see what the battles look like here. Ayame gets ticked off after hearing this, so she rushes off, allowing the others to see the clerk put on the half-price stickers. With the clerk being known as the god of defense, she has never been interrupted in her bento pricing. As usual, when the door closes, battle erupts. As this one, there are different fighters than usual. This time, Ayame fights against Sato, claiming this land as her home turf. While fighting, a man emerges into the store without anyone even noticing. Then Hana runs past people and grabs a bento, so Sato follows suit, but he is stopped by Nikaido. He claims this is his turf, that he is a disciple of the great Gabriel. Then Ayami notices what's going on, but is too late, only seeing Sato get knocked down. The rest of the guards enclosing the area, all anybody can do is watch him get beaten to a pulp. Leader of the thugs tells Sato that today he will be punished for his actions. Before he can land another punch, however, Yarazui stops him, telling him to pick a fight on someone still willing to fight. Thug leader doesn't care, however, as he proceeds to throw Sato into the air and KO him. When Sato finally woke back up, he was greeted by the clerk standing before him. Sato thinks this is his chance to spit some game. First, he wants to know what happened. She explains that he overstepped his boundaries and lost badly. Once he hears this, Sato knows that it ended up badly, so he decides to make his move sooner rather than later. Before he can move, however, his other girls enter the room, asking why he is covering up. Yarazui then explains to him that he got taken out by the monarch, and the clerk has been taking care of him. They urge him to get a move on, but he can't move for a specific reason. Ayame notices this, so she runs to his side, hoping to get him to expose himself to the clerk he was peeping on. And suddenly, Hana enters the room, and finds this all playing out at the perfect time with girls all over him. With her being the nerd girl, she knows she stands no chance, so she just accepts it. They then eat food from the supermarket after being unable to get a bento. While they eat, Ayami explains to Sato that soon there will be an event coming up involving the monarch. She tells him that he has a chance for revenge if he tries his best, but he might get beaten up again. Yarizui then asks Ayame why she led Sato here, knowing that the monarch would come. She calls her out, but Ayame explains it as her wanting Sato to get beaten up so badly he would quit. Episode 6. With all of the recent events being filled with action, Anna makes sure to document it all. While this happens, the clerk from the supermarket talks with a man about bentos. She urges him to be careful in putting a stop to someone named Edo's plans. Recognizes him as Kaneshiro, the one who stands in the middle of the monarch's plans. Sato, on the other hand, meets with the rest of the club's wolves to plan for their next fight. Yarazui tells the wolves that they need their help in order to take down the monarch at the next fight. The mysterious retainers then start arguing about who shall go and take the bento from the monarch. Eventually, Yarizui tells them all to come, showing the seriousness of the situation. Yarizui then informs Sato that she will take on the monarch by herself, leaving him and Hana to watch after their supermarkets. Following this, Yarizui releases her retainers and urges them to meet with her at the Western supermarket. She urges Sato to go home. She's simply just going to buy a bento for dinner. Ayame, on the other hand, is seen talking to a moving company man about the monarch butterfly, aka the clerk at the supermarket. He tells Ayame that although she is close in strength to the wizard, he ultimately overpowered her. Then, later that night, the wizard was somehow found knocked out in the street with his bento gone. The man explains that the wizard exhausted all of his strength and ate of the floor like a slob. He then asks Ayame what she's going to do with a new monarch running the supermarket. He tells her that although the previous monarch is stronger, the new one has bigger numbers. He informs her that out of all the wolves, the wizard is the only one strong enough to stop the monarch. With the current monarch hoping to claim the rightful spot of the monarch by defeating the previous, you can only expect what happens at the supermarkets. With the monarch's men standing idly watching the grandpa, it makes Sato tense up. Before he can start his hunt, however, Ayame enters and drags him out of the building. He tells him that the monarch is after Yarizui, knowing that if he beats her, then he will be able to claim the true monarch. By defeating the ice-cold witch, Ayame reveals that he will become a legend among the half-priced warriors. Once he hears this, he calls her, but gets no answer, making him wonder what's going on. Then as they talk, some high school guys talk about some girl being knocked out in the middle of the street. Sato acts on this and chases the trail, but once he arrives, he only sees the blood splattered. Once they see this, they dash farther into the city where the stronger of the wolves resides. Within a supermarket not far away, there stands the monarch and the wizard alongside the previous monarch. She talks with the wizard, telling him that despite her being retired, she is here to fight. Then suddenly, as they talk, Yarizui enters the store all beaten up, showing that she stood no chance to the monarch's men. Once the previous monarch sees this, she is brought to tears, forcing her to go elsewhere. The current monarch, on the other hand, talks with Yarizui, asking why she came just to get beaten again. He tells her that her reign is over, claiming he will control all of the supermarkets. He then goes to strike her. The wizard emerges and informs him that he is a fake monarch, calling the retired monarch the true one. This angers the monarch, so he throws the wizard to the ground, then ordering the previous monarch to place the half-priced stickers already. She wonders how things could go so wrong, the previous life being filled with joy. As the clerk, however, she is forced to abide by the rules and drop the stickers off and leave. After she exits, the monarch rushes Yarizui, but Sato stops him in his tracks. As he walks forward, Yarizui starts to realize that she isn't alone in this half-priced territorial battle. The monarch doesn't fret, however, instead telling Yarizui that it doesn't matter how much trash you pile up, or simply making a bigger pile of trash. He then tells him to fight her one-on-one, asking why he needs so many minions always around. Then suddenly, the building starts to shake from the trio's intense aura. The monarch doesn't back down, however, ordering his men to engage in battle. With this, the battle erupts and the monarch knocks Sato down with ease. He starts talking himself up, but is interrupted when Yarizui starts attacking him out of the blue. She tells him that it doesn't matter how strong he is. If he doesn't have a true strive for bentos, then he will never overpower them. He is then knocked back by Ayame, which causes him to unleash his true power. Grabs a shopping cart and starts swinging it around like a sword, showing he has no intentions of backing down. Yarizui, however, is able to easily evade the attacks thanks to her slim body, then work together in unison to take the monarch down, solidifying their spot to claim a bento. With only 2 bentos and 3 wolves, Sato and Ayame are forced to duke it out over the final bento. While this happens, Hana emerges and tells Yarizui that she successfully defended her territory. Sato then exits the building with Ayame leaning on his shoulder, showing that he overpowered her in the battle. Despite defeating her, she still snags pieces of his bento, making it a little less rewarding. Yarizui joins in and snags a piece as well, making Sato realize he might need to hunt for more next time.